With the NBA regular season done and out of the way, it's time to look forward to the most exciting part of the year, playoffs. And I think this playoffs, especially in the first round, there's going to be a lot of really exciting matchups and a lot of teams that could be big upsets or favorites, kind of depending on how you look at it. And for me, I think one of the most exciting matchups, especially come the first round, that I'm most looking forward to is Kings versus the Warriors. First, I'm just excited for the Kings to make the playoffs. Coming into this season, I was pretty high on them, but I was not this high on them. I think I had them in the 7, 8 seed, maybe even the top 6 seed. I don't really remember. But I'm just really excited for the fact that they've overblown my expectations so much and they're playing such great basketball as a team. Also, I really think it's going to be exciting to see the Kings versus the Warriors because the Kings play a very similar style of offensive basketball to the Warriors, using Domantas Sabonis kind of in that Draymond Green triple handoff role. And you have so many guys like Kevin Huerter, Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes all running around shooting, as well as guys like Monk off the bench who can kind of keep that level up and provide the same type of lift. I also think it's going to be really exciting to see Mike Brown coach against his former team, and if he's going to be able to kind of show any unique ways of slowing down the Warriors, or if he has any kind of particular schemes in mind being a coach for them at a certain point. I wonder if that's going to be kind of an interesting wrinkle to this series I think a lot of people aren't really talking about. Also, I think this is going to be a really big test for both of the teams. For the Warriors, I think if they lose in the first round, they're going to have to really take a big step back and look at their current roster construction and be like, are we building a real contender for Curry? Can this team still contend with the guys we have around him? And I think that's a genuine question. Like Green, Clay, I think they've kind of gone worse. They're not really the same level of players that they were when you paid them all that money. And now you have so much money tied up with those guys and an Andrew Wiggins. Do you really have enough to kind of build a contender around Curry in his last few prime years? I think this playoffs is going to be a big test for the team. And also for the Kings, I think this is going to be a really big test to see, one, does an extremely offensive focused team, can they win in the playoffs? And can a young team that has such little playoff experience also upset the favorites and the defending champions? So I think for all those reasons, it's going to be really exciting. But let's get into kind of more of a statistical analysis as why I think one team might be able to beat the other. First of all, I think it's really important to state just how terrible the Warriors have been on the road, and because they don't have home court advantage in any pretty much playoff matchup if they make it past this one, their road record and how poor the team performs on the road I think is really crucial to understand. On the road, the team has a 118 defensive rating. At home, they have a 108. So they're 10 points worse on the road when it comes to defense, meaning they're giving up way more on the road. They have a 114 offensive rating. At home, they have a 116 offensive rating. So they're also putting up less points on the road. So not only are they giving up more points, they're scoring less points. And what that equals is a minus 12 total net rating on the road when you compare it to their home stats. And that's really fucking terrible. Like, I just don't see how any team that is that terrible throughout the entire regular season on the road is just now going to come into the playoffs and flip a switch and be perfect. I know they have a resume. I know they have the experience. I know they have that whole 0-27 playoff series that the Warriors core 3 guys have played in. They've won a road game. But they haven't been those core 3 guys this year. Clay hasn't been as elite. Draymond Green hasn't been as elite, I think. I think the whole entire team around them hasn't been elite. And you can't just ignore half of the season. Like, throughout half of the season throughout the total season, but like half of their total games in the season on the road, they've been terrible. Like, beyond just bad, like actually downright terrible. And when you come into a playoff situation where the home court advantage, I think, gets even more amplified because, fans are more and more excited for playoff, especially in Sacramento, where I think a lot of fans are going to be as loud as possible come playoff time. I just think that really matters. And when you look at those numbers, like, it's hard for me to see, one, the Warriors flipping the switch, like I said, but also like being able to actually win a road game come playoff time. And while, yes, the Kings haven't been as elite as the Warriors have when you compare their home records and home advanced stats, the Kings are still a really good home team. They have a positive winning record at home. They've been able to take care of business on home, as well as they're a really good road team. They're one of the best road teams in the West, one of the best road teams total in the league. And when you kind of put those two things together, plus how terrible the Warriors' road record is, they're going to need to play perfectly at home, the Warriors, to have a legitimate chance in this series. And they're going to somehow need to be able to flip the switch and win a road game. I don't really know how confident I am in those things, as well as I'm just not really confident in the Warriors team outside of their starting 5 of Curry, Clay, Green, Looney, Wiggins. And I'm not even that confident in Wiggins because he's missed so much of the year. I think they're going to need Wiggins to be able to come in, be himself from last year's playoff, as well as play a bunch of minutes, like probably 36 or close to 36 minutes a night. And I just don't know if he's going to be able to do that. I wish him the best. I hope everything that's going on with his family is okay. When you're looking at just pure basketball, he's missed a really long time. I don't see him, I don't understand, or I don't think his conditioning would be in peak shape. I don't know if his groove, his shooting form, all of that stuff is going to be like in a good groove, and they're going to really need him to be that wing defender and just like be a good offensive piece. And I'm just going to be surprised if he comes in and he's able to be the exact same guy he was last season. But let's talk about why I think the Warriors are the betting favorites, and a lot of people still view them as the favorites to win the series. First, they're going to have the best player in the series by far in Stephen Curry. I think he's clearly the better player out of anyone on the Kings, and clearly the best player on the Warriors. That's not even up for discussion. They're going to have much more playoff experience than the Kings. They're going to be able to understand, or they do understand, they already know how the game slows down and changes come playoff time, the level, the increase in intensity, the increase in pressure on the players, especially when they go on a road game. The Warriors know of these things, and the Kings are experiencing these things for the first time. You know, I understand the experience. I understand that the Warriors are a much better defensive team than them, and people like to talk about how much defense matters come playoff time, and I do agree. I think playoffs, defense, especially your weakest defender, gets exposed even more, and if you have a weak link on the defensive end, teams have 7 games to find exactly what that weak link is and take advantage of it time and time again. And the Warriors have shown, you know, Steve Kerr is a really good coach. He's able to adjust. He's able to kind of pick and choose what defensive schemes they need and how to attack their opposing defensive schemes. For all these reasons, I understand why people view the Warriors as still a favorite, but I'm just not that convinced that the whole regular season doesn't matter, where the Warriors have shown that they're bad on the road. I also am not that convinced that, especially this year, because we've tilted so much towards offense, pace, speed, high scoring numbers. I don't think that's going to completely shift when it comes to playoff time. The game is definitely going to slow down. I think the Kings are aware of that, and Mike Brown is a coach who's coached in multiple playoff series, as well as coached as an assistant coach on the Warriors, and knows how to play in those big moments, how to make those adjustments. While I do think the Kings are going to get slowed down by just playing in the playoffs, I'm not buying in the whole like, oh, they're not going to be able to play their same way that they have the regular season. And I don't really buy the whole like defense matters exponentially more than offense come playoff time. And I think especially at least this season, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a big shift where actually a lot of more offensive tilted teams are going to be winning, because just simply like 3 is more than 2, and it's easier to just get more points than it is to get stops. But, you know, I kind of touched upon it while I was talking about the Warriors, but now let's talk about why I think the Kings can win. As you notice, I'm kind of leaning towards Kings throughout the whole video. Why I think they can win. They're a good road team. They've shown that they're actually better on the road than they are at home, and I think that's going to really matter, especially against the Warriors, that if they're able to steal a home game, I think they've pretty much clinched the series, because I just don't see the Warriors winning on the road. 2, I think the Kings are just a much deeper team, despite the lack of playoff experience. I trust guys like Malik Monk, Trey Lyles, and Davion Mitchell way more than I trust a Kuminga or even a Jordan Poole, to be honest, or like outside of Dante DiVincenzo for the Warriors. I just don't trust their bench, and I know the guys on the Kings bench are also unproven come playoff time, as the whole team is. They've been really good this regular season, and the whole team, when you look at across the whole roster for the Kings, are having career years, and I think one that speaks to like how good of a coach Mike Brown is, as well as how good of a system he's built to put his players in the best possible situation to succeed. So I think that on the road, you know, the Kings are a decent defensive team. On the road, the Kings have a 113.8 defensive rating. Still not super good, but a lot better than their home defensive rating. I just, like, when you look at all of that, I think the Kings are going to be way, way fresher. They've been healthy all year. They're not dealing with knick-knack injuries. They're not old. They're going to be way fresher and able to just kind of outrun and outpace the Warriors. And while I think the playoffs do slow down, I think this playoffs is going to be different, and I think the Kings know how to still play with a high pace while not sacrificing just like poor offensive possessions just for the sake of playing at a fast pace. As well as, like I've touched upon, but like Mike Brown coaching for the Warriors, I think will matter. But him knowing the systems, him being familiar with their players, their schemes, and all of that, I think is going to be a really big advantage for Mike Brown when it comes to making adjustments come off playoff time and kind of down into the series. Who is going to be able to make the best adjustments? I do think Mike Brown has the advantage over Kerr, just because he's seen the inside of the Warriors organization. So with all of that in mind, my official predictions for the series are Kings in 7. I think it's going to be a really close series the whole time. I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth with both teams winning all of their home games and it coming down to game 7 at home for the Kings, where it comes down to probably the last quarter and it's super close, but in the end the Kings prevail. I just think throughout the whole regular season, the Kings have shown that they are the better team to the Warriors. They're a much better offensive team. Yes, they're a much worse defensive team, but I think they're going to be able to make those adjustments adjustments that kind of make them a little bit better defensively while still being able to outscore and outpace the Warriors on offense. I'm really leaning towards the Kings. I think they're just a much deeper team. They are the more completed team. They have better chemistry. I think they don't have to worry about an Andrew Wiggins coming into the starting lineup and getting into a groove. They don't need to worry about are their shooters hot, because the Kings pressure the basket and get to the line a lot more than the Warriors. And I think in the playoffs, like, you can talk all you want about defense or how the game slows down. Yes, the game slows down, but you also need to score points. And for the Warriors, they don't get to the line, they don't get to the basket as much, and they don't score those easy points where the Kings have guys like Fox and Sabonis who can just relentlessly attack the basket and get fouls and get those easy points when they really, really need one. Something that I think could really hurt the Warriors come playoffs. So I'm just excited. I really hope the Kings win. Like, I am biased in this sense, but I just think it'd be like an incredible storyline that the Kings went from a team that no one thought could even make the playoffs or maybe make the play-in to a playoffs, to the second round, to defeating the defending champions. I think that would be a great story, and I do really see that happening. I'm just excited to watch